We are going straight to the courtroom now, and we're going to find out some things that have to do with our rights as individuals and then also what the laws have to say about it. Today, I'm sure you've heard over the years this particular phrase, deceit of a public officer. Deceit of a public officer. You've heard it in movies, you've heard it being told to people who have been arrested, even in their homes or in their cars, wherever it is. But what is the meaning of a deceit of a public officer? We're going straight to the chamber on NewDay to find out what that means. All right, so to help me put this particular issue in perspective and to understand what it means, we've been joined by Eric Delano Alifo. He is the Executive Director of Help Law Ghana, and he's a lawyer by profession as well. Good morning, sir. Thank you very much.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Great.
In the last few days, across the country, there's been the news about this YFM presenter, Miss Adan. Now she's in the grips of the police, and then they are saying that she's recovered, and then they are yet to speak with her and get her side of the story of what happened. But there are speculations that she's likely to be charged with deceit of a public officer, and that's the question we want to find out. As a lawyer, do we have anything like that in the Constitution, and what does deceit of a public officer mean?
Okay, thank you very much, and good morning to your viewers. The Constitution itself doesn't provide directly for that, but the Constitution is a supreme law, it's a framework from which other laws flow. So we have the Criminal Code. The Criminal Code has a provision against deceiving public officers. Deceiving public officers, which is deceit of public officials, can come in various ways. When we complete forms, application forms, for instance, for passport, for other official documentation and other things, and you make representations, you are deceiving a public officer in order to get some favors or in order to defraud the state or defraud somebody or injure somebody. If you go to the police station to make a complaint, which is completely false, then you are also deceiving a public officer. So I believe to put it in perspective, the context, the particular person you are talking about, if the person went to the police to report, and it is discovered later that all that she has said were lies, then she could be prosecuted, she could be charged with that offense.
Okay, but in this case where, for instance, I tell you something, how are you able to decipher what I have told you verbally that I have deceived you?
Well, it could, if I can't find out if I'm a public officer and you have made the representation to me and I can't find out that it is false, then of course, because I need to prove it, I need to be able to show that what you are telling me is not true. So if I can't find out, then I have no cause of action against you.
Okay.
But if it is investigated, sometimes even the story may raise red flag, and if people are alarmed and they want to go into it a little bit and they investigate and find out that what you have said is completely false, then they also have to show that you intentionally told. Like, you see, if you don't know yourself, you think that what you are saying is true, then there may not be any cause of action against you, because for every criminal offense there has to be what we call the intent, the intent to commit that crime. You want to do it, and then you go ahead to do it. So if you are having the false belief that what you are saying is true, then you may not be liable. So if you give me the information and we can find out later that the information you have given is not true, then you can be called to answer.
Do we have different penalties? We'll be looking at what penalties there could be for people who are, found out to have deceived a public officer. But if a third party, for instance, you give me information to give to someone, and then it is found out that information I have given is false.
Yes.
When I'm arrested,
yes,
do I have to take my punishment and yours as well, or because clearly I'm just a carrier of a message or a messenger?
Yes.
Well, are there different sanctions for people who, depending on the flow of information?
Well, yes. In some cases, these are matters that will be litigated in court for people's rules, particular rules in the offense to come out clearly. So, for instance, if you give me information, if I work for you and you give me an information to relate to somebody, and I take the information there, and it turns out that the information was false, I may not necessarily be charged, because I wouldn't know. Okay. I work for you and you just sent me and I carried your information across. I go on the errand for you. I don't see the reason why. Like I said, there has to be the intent. But if it can be established that I conspired with you, or I planned with you to maybe cook that information and to put it out there to deceive somebody, to get some favor, or to injure or damage somebody, then of course I should also be liable.
Then what are the probable sanctions or punishments that there are for people who are charged with deceit of a public officer?
It's a misdemeanor. According to the code, misdemeanor it's not a very serious offense like felony. It's where people robbery and stealing and all of those things. So it carries up to about 3 years. But you see, the law that makes an action a crime also prescribe, that particular law must prescribe the punishment that goes with that crime. So it depends on which provision they are charging you under. So if the provision provides also for the punishment, then they will have to go by that punishment. If it doesn't, then it comes to the general, there's a blanket cover for most of the offenses. That's where for misdemeanor it has to be maximum of 3 years. It could be fine, and so the judges have the prerogative. If
you say misdemeanor, what does it mean?
Oh, that's going to another realm. Yeah, the criminal offenses are categorized in terms of severity.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have the first degree felony, we have the second degree felony, we have in Ghana we have the felony, it's just felony, and then we have the misdemeanor. So it comes down like that. The first degree murder and all of those things. So those very serious crimes would be the first degree, and then it comes down. So the law groups them in these categories, and the punishment, the harshness of the punishment also goes to the categories.
According to, which means that, for instance, if I deceive a public officer, or I tell a lie and it leads to the death of someone, that punishment, or the punishment one would get, is certainly going to be different from if I tell a lie and then it gets probably 10 Ghana cedi extorted from someone.
Of course, those are some of the things the judges will take into account in sentencing. Because if it's just deceit, then it will come under deceit and the punishment. But you see, even the maximum sentence may be given, but you may not necessarily be given the maximum sentence. So depending on the grievousness of the offense or the effect of your action, then the judge has the prerogative to give between the minimum and the maximum sentence.
Okay, back to the issue of the lady in question, that's Miss Ada. This is someone who has done, quote unquote, something to herself.
Yes.
But when the police came in and she was arrested or picked up, the information which from your submission would have probably hurt someone or injured someone or damaged someone was onto herself. So do you think that the state prosecution or the lawyers or the police for that matter do have a case if they want to charge her with deceit of a public officer? I'm not too sure. The deceit of the public officer is when she goes out there to make false presentation to them. She goes there to report that I was perhaps raped by a group of people and blah, 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 or maybe if the intention was to hurt somebody. And the way we read the story, I don't want to speculate about that, but if the intention was to cause somebody to be uncomfortable or for somebody to receive punishment, then the deceit may have been committed already. But the prosecutors, the state agencies, and those who prosecute, they are the ones that would have to research the particular law under which somebody is charged. And so for us, and me typically, I do defense work for some of these people. I'll be very glad if he's charged. I'll be very glad to be there for her. And so if they bring out the law under which the person is charged, then we look at the law. Maybe there's some law hiding somewhere that they are going to bring out. Fine. If they bring that out, we look at what the law says, what are the elements, and then we push the state, the prosecutors to prove, to make sure that they prove each of the elements of the law. So I don't know. I can't give them clue as to what they should charge the person under, but I really don't see. But in this case, how would you define deceit in this scenario? Who was she deceiving?
Well, that's what I'm saying. It is the public officer. It's not me. I'm not a public officer. So if she meets me on the street and tells me a lie, it doesn't have any effect at all.
Okay.
But if she goes to the police station to report to the police, you see, and it's going to cause the police to do an investigation that will not even reveal anything. The investigation that will turn out to showed that she was responsible for the act, then that she's obviously deceiving the police officer.
Right.
You get what I mean?
Yes.
So if she goes out to report that I was raped, and when you give the narration, you also said that she was arrested by the police, that she was arrested or she was picked up and the police questioned. So likely she didn't even go to tell the police anything. So she probably was doing her own thing. She decided to walk naked across the street and whatever, and is not telling anybody anything. We could even consider that the person was mad, and that's the end of it.
Okay.
Yeah, but if it was the police that interrupted her and questioned her, and as a result she put out certain things, then well, those will be the issues that will actually be litigated. If in case they charge her for deceit, then we'll find out whether she was the one that came with the intention to deceive you. For now, we don't know. But so again, if the idea was as soon as she came out of that place, and because this was a radio presenter and the news was all over the place, and if she came out over there and then went to the police station to make a complaint, then you are deceiving the police, because you know the complaint you are making is not true. Yeah, and you go ahead to tell the police that this is true, this is what has happened, and so they should investigate.
But in this case, does public officer only mean the police, or any official who works for the government or under whose jurisdiction will need state resources to investigate an issue?
Not only state resources to investigate, yes, but the first part of your question is correct. Yes, public officer is somebody that you have gone to. Like I said, the law is you are going to get something out of that person, get a favor or get a person to do something for you or to go and investigate. That's why I gave the example. Okay. You may not even be a public officer in this circumstance, because if the person tells you, unless perhaps it's telling you for you to put it in your news media and make noise about it, then of course that also may result in that. But me, if the person finds me on the street, I don't work for the state, and the person just deceives me, that's it. It doesn't go anywhere. Deceiving people on the person can deceive 100 people on the street, as long as it's not causing any panic, any fear and panic. I don't think that any action lies against that person. If the person goes specifically to a public officer, whether it's a police, whether it's a military person, whether it's an officer that will have to do something for her and gives information that is not true in order to get that, then of course the person may come under that law.
Would that also fall under? So these, just picking up from where your last point, where someone could go on a deceit spree.
Yes.
These people may not necessarily be public officers.
Yes.
But if the story he or she tells them affects them in one way or the other, could that also be a deceit, or then that will be categorized as fraud? Not
fraud per se. Certainly that will not be deceit of a public officer. Exactly. If the people are not public officers and it's not telling them to derive any favors from them, then it will not fall under that. But there may be other areas of the law that person could be caught. He could make a complaint. I'm not too sure yet, but of course, if the person's representation to you causes you to act in a certain way that damage, so if there's some effect on you, then of course you may be able to maybe file a suit. It could be a civil suit against the person. But I'm not too sure that there's any criminal.
Let me just divert a little. Do we have any portion of our constitution that has anything we call lies, where you can say someone has lied?
Well, in the constitution, no, I haven't come across the word lie in the constitution at all. So I don't know what exactly you mean, but
it may not necessarily fall under this issue. Yeah. Okay, so are there any defenses for someone like the radio presenter Ada? Are there any defenses at all? Not even her alone, but people who are charged too.
Well, if the person has not done it, if you have not told any lie, then you can say that I haven't said so. That's a clear defense. If you don't have the intent, as an intention, as some put it, to deceive, they have to prove all of those things against you. It is the way the law works in Ghana is slightly different, though, because I've been going to the court and it appears as though the burden is on the accused, on the suspect, to prove his innocence. So they don't push the state to prove the elements, except the people who are famous and rich. For them, they have their way most of the time in the court, and I say this all the time. But the poor person, the way they are treated in the court, you think that they want them rather to prove their innocence. You see, so the state is supposed to prove those things, and so when the state is proving, and then you put up your defense. I don't know about any legally carved defenses for such things, but just to each of the elements that they are trying to prove. If you have defense, if you did not have the intent to do that, they have to show that you have the intent, and you have to tell them that I believe that what I said was true.
Okay.
Yeah, and so if I believe it was true, if genuinely I believe it was true, and they cannot show that I knew it was a lie and I went and said it, then that would also be a defense in my favor.
You've been to court several times. Is deceit of public officer very regular?
No, very regular. Maybe not the course I attend, but I don't think this is something that is common at all. It's not common. Most times the police, they rush to charge people for various offenses. Once they are angry with you, they think that maybe you bully them a little bit, they charge, and they put you under all kinds of charges, and then they start and it falls flat. They are not able to move forward. Okay. So some of these laws are just in the books, and they don't really apply them very much, because it's very difficult to be able to prove the elements.
Okay, I would have to leave it here for now, but we hope that in the coming days we'll be able to follow the issues that have come up out of this particular development and see whether the charge that is being put on Miss Ada would carry anywhere, the deceit of public officer. But in this case, it has to do more or less with she herself. So, like counsel said, we'll find out what the court of the charges would be, and if it is that she's being charged with deceit of public officer, we'll look into it and bring you the latest on that. We'd want to say a big thank you to Eric Delano Alifo. He's the Executive Director of Help Law Ghana and has been helping us understand what deceit of public officer means.